The smell of worn leather seeping deep into the chest. That unforgettable scent, cream-colored, once gleaming like something new, now carrying the full weight of the years. 1990, Mercedes-Benz 230E. On the cream leather of the passenger seat, there was a faint trace of red lipstick. The last time she sat there, looking out the window, biting her lip. The trace of that moment. Time passed, but it never faded. Quietly pressed into the soft cream like a red wound. Every time he saw that lipstick mark, the pain of the day she left would come alive again. Like a kiss she never finished. He never wiped it away. Because wiping it away would have felt like erasing even her last breath. One red trace on cream leather. Perhaps that was the proof their love had never ended. An old salon in Apgujeong, the seat where the longest-standing regular always sat. A late autumn afternoon, the sunlight was so sharp it almost brought tears. When I gave him that car, her voice trembled for the first time. He cried for a long time. It wasn't just crying. It was the sound of a chest breaking open. That long, long cry still seems to drift through this room. A single key someone left behind, still floating in this air. The cold taste of metal, the warmth that once lived in leather, and salt of tears too painful to speak. A seat still holding 1992 close to its chest. This is seat 0, the most painful seat of all, the one no one sits in. One Mercedes, one deposit, one bank account. What a woman left a man. That was all of it. The moment she gave everything she had, perhaps that was both the beginning and the end of their love. And yet, that man came back 10 years later. 10 years. How heavy must that have been? How did this story begin? Winter of 1985. Myeongdong. Walk toward Il Giro and you'd see a building. A sign above the entrance. People in white coats moving quietly in and out. A plastic surgeon. Quick hands, precise eyes. A well-known clinic in Myeongdong. Always quiet, always full. Then one day, he began looking somewhere else. America. The words American dream floated through the air like breath that year. He set down his scalpel and bought a plane ticket. Los Angeles. Between Koreatown and Little Tokyo, a new clinic opened. A line formed almost immediately. Korean patients, Chinese patients, Taiwanese, Japanese. The reputation of a surgeon with precise hands crossed every border. His daughter and son grew up in that abundance. Both were accepted to UCLA. He smiled quietly. We must speak of the daughter. Her mother had once competed in the Miss Korea pageant, a graduate of Ewha Women's University. Composed, intelligent. The daughter took after her. 167 centimeters. She had studied ballet since childhood. A long back, quiet footsteps. Eyes you didn't forget, like a young deer. Wide, clear, seeming to hide nothing. And yet behind those eyes, there was always something measuring. Economics. German. She double majored at UCLA. Angela. No one on campus didn't know her name. After graduation, she stayed on as a teaching assistant, preparing for graduate school. The drive from Orange County was long. She rented a room alone near Sawtelle. Alone, but not someone who felt lonely. New student orientations, exchange student guidance, dormitory complaints. When a Korean student arrived, she was the first to step forward. Translation, direction, sometimes a meal. That was her way. Not flashy, but impossible to forget. And in the spring of 1990, a young man arrived from Korea. We must speak of the man. His family line traced back to the Joseon dynasty, Korea's ancient aristocracy. The Korean War passed through. Military coups passed through. The family quietly fell. But one thing always remained in this household: propriety, loyalty, honor. His name was Jun Kang. His build was unusual. Even among rugby players, he didn't yield. Wide shoulders, thick neck, a voice low and heavy. A baritone you didn't forget after hearing it once. But he was poor. He had a mind. With corporate sponsorship, he earned an exchange student place at UCLA. Economics. The professors noticed him before anyone else did.
It was orientation day. Angela was standing at the front, papers in hand, speaking in a clear, steady voice. June was watching from the back. His English was decent, but he asked questions anyway. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time she answered, he nodded. At first he followed her the way a younger brother follows an older sister. When economics came up, June spoke first. Angela became the one who listened. Economic theory, German music, and ramyeon. Things they had in common appeared, one by one. The speed at which they drew close was rapid. June's wallet was thin. The money from Korea came in a fixed amount. Books came first, food came after. There were tensions with his dormitory roommate. He needed somewhere cheaper. He found a room with 5 friends, far from school. Then one day, after a date, after dinner, his account was empty. Around that time, Angela said it. "Let's live together." A short sentence, not a light one. Angela's allowance from her surgeon father, her TA salary, June's stipend. When 3 incomes merged, they could finally breathe. A small household, but an abundant season. Spring in Sawtelle came late. 1 window, 1 kitchen, 1 bed. It was enough. Angela woke first each morning. She brewed coffee. The sound of grinding beans drifted out into the Sawtelle alley. June opened his eyes to that sound. Economics textbooks lay open on the table, underlines everywhere. Angela's or June's, there was no telling. Evenings they cooked together. The refrigerator was always a little short, but something always came out of it. Ramyeon with 1 egg, kimchi if they had it. That was enough. When June picked up his chopsticks, Angela smiled first. She didn't know why. She just smiled. At night, each sat at their own desk. Angela read economics papers. June memorized German vocabulary. "Is this right?" Angela turned. June was holding up his notebook. It was wrong, but close. "You're almost there." That one line. June opened his notebook again. On weekends, they watched the ocean. Santa Monica. 1 bagel each. Sitting on the sand. Waves came and went. Neither spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. That was the kind of time it was. Not glamorous, but full. On the day Angela's paycheck came in, she went to the market. She bought 2 steaks. Exactly 2. That evening, June washed the dishes without a word. A man from a Yangban household, Korea's ancient scholar-noble lineage, wearing rubber gloves at the sink. Angela watched his back. Later, she understood that this season was the most complete time either of them would ever live. But spring doesn't last. It was April of 1992. Her father found out. The surgeon who had made a name for himself in Myeongdong, a conservative man, his daughter living with someone, a poor young Korean man at that, an exchange student. Dad,
Why is he calling at this hour? This happiness is so large. I've been afraid someone would take it away. June's hands are warm. Will this call bring everything down? Break up with him, now. That voice, first time I've heard it, but it cuts like a blade. Angela's eyes, they're in so much pain. Is my poverty the thing that will tear us apart? Before that command had even settled, Los Angeles caught fire. It was April 29th, 1992, the afternoon. The television screen was red. Los Angeles was burning. It was Koreatown. Korean-owned stores burned. There were no police. Korean store owners climbed to their rooftops. They held guns, trying to protect the lives they had built. Smoke swallowed the sky. Shouting filled the streets. Inside those flames, you could hear the sound of every dream turning to ash. She only understood it later. The day those fires went out was the day Angela handed over the car keys. Then the phone rang again. Her father called again. Pack your things, now. Go back to Korea with your mother, immediately. I'll stay here and hold down the clinic and the house. The hands that had gripped a scalpel in Myeongdong were now locking the clinic door. Did those hands tremble? Through the phone, beyond his voice, you could almost hear the fire. Dad, why only me and Mom? What about June? What about this small happiness we made? I feel like my chest is being torn apart, but I have no choice. Angela held the phone. She looked at June. June looked at Angela. Both of them knew what this call meant. That look in her eyes, it's already goodbye. My hands are going cold. This city burning, is it burning our love down with it? Angela took out her bag. She didn't know what to put in it. Her hands stopped. June sat down beside her. He said nothing. He helped her pack, in silence, swallowing tears. 2 days. 2 days left before the plane. They tried to spend those 2 days as they always had. They brewed coffee, sat at the table, opened their books, but nothing would go in. Every page blurred with tears. The night deepened. Angela spoke. Her voice was so small that June had to move closer to hear. There's something I want to give you. It was a car key. A 1990 Mercedes-Benz 230E. Money Angela had saved. A deposit. A bank account. And a key. I can't take this. Is this a goodbye gift? My chest, it hurts too much. June tried not to take it. Angela spoke first. Don't skip meals. Study harder. Make something of yourself. That was all. June's hand closed around the key. They cried. They cried for days. At the airport, Angela looked back. June was standing there. The man whose build didn't yield even among rugby players. He looked small. That was the last time. Their time flowed separately. Angela came back to Seoul, the spring of 1992, the year LA burned. Korea felt foreign too, like a room left empty too long. Everything was awkward. Everything had become a tangled knot impossible to undo. Still, she had to live. German, economics. She held both at once. Translation work, when German companies entered Korea, when Korean companies moved into Germany. Angela stood between them. Not flashy, but precise. She changed her number, changed her email. Her father said, "Forget that, young man. The situation for Koreans in LA is bad. You need to stay in Korea." Angela only learned later who had come looking for her. And then there was June's time. He stayed in LA alone. He put the key in his pocket, got in the car. He must have driven for a long time. He began a doctoral program, economics. The professors held on to him. His papers were different. But during the day, he translated. He converted Korean news into English, LA Korean radio, American regional papers. That was how he made ends meet. After earning his doctorate, June took a position at an international financial consulting firm in LA as an Asia market analyst. Every morning in a small office near Koreatown, he sat down at a computer and began reading the movements of East Asian economies. Subtle shifts in the Korean stock market, fluctuations in the Japanese yen, changes in China's trade policy. His desk was always stacked with translated Korean news, and late into the night, his eyes moved across data charts and graphs, still as sharp as they had been at UCLA. The translation work he had done to survive had become his edge. The ability to read real-time news that he had developed at the Korean radio station became the very thing that let him interpret the pulse of Asian markets for his clients. But behind that success, a cream-colored car key was always hidden in his pocket. Every time he held that key, 10 years of solitude seeped through. He drove the Mercedes. Whenever it needed repairs, he repaired it. Friends told him, "Just sell it." June never answered. The dashboard shook, the air conditioning broke, the door creaked. Still, he drove it. He tried to find Angela. There was the internet now. It was 2002, but nothing came up under the name Angela. She was a U.S. citizen. In Korea, her name didn't exist. A translator's profession is unpredictable in its location. No company, no office. She seemed to have simply vanished. Then one night, he turned on the news. It was 2002, the year Korea and Japan secured the World Cup hosting rights together. Two people were on screen, a German minister, a Korean minister. Between them, an interpreter. June set down the remote. It was her face, those eyes, like a young deer. 10 years had passed, but he was not wrong.
He contacted the broadcasting station. He said he was looking for the interpreter on screen. It took several days. Then a phone number came through. June boarded a flight to Korea. 10 years had passed. He carried one bag. The place he met Angela was a cafe in the city. She arrived first. 167 centimeters, the long back of someone who had studied ballet, eyes like a young deer. Angela looked at June, wide shoulders that didn't yield even among rugby players, a baritone you didn't forget after hearing it once. 10 years had passed, but he looked exactly as he had in 1992. At first it was small talk, how life in Seoul had been, when she had started the translation work. Angela asked first, "Did you finish your doctorate?" June smiled. "Yes." The coffee went cold. Neither of them noticed. The conversation didn't stop, as though filling in 10 years of blank space. Then June asked, carefully, "Right now, is there someone—" Angela set down her coffee cup. She looked out the window, just for a moment. Then she shook her head. It was 1 week. June stayed in Seoul. One day they ate together. One day they walked together. One day they did nothing at all, just existed in the same space. Not many words, but not awkward. Like sitting at their own desks in Sawtelle. That feeling. The week ended. It was the day he flew back to America. On the way to the airport, June stopped the car, without warning. From inside his bag, he took out a small box. It was a Graff promise, an oval diamond, an engagement ring. The morning light of Seoul spread quietly across its surface. June spoke. I made you wait too long. With the single key you placed in my hand that day, I held on for 10 years. Now it is my turn to give you something, so that you will never have to open a door alone again. Angela looked at the ring for a long time. Then she looked at June. She said nothing, but she held out her hand. June returned to America. It was the place he had lived for 10 years. There were things to settle. He packed his things, ended his contracts, said goodbye to people. The Mercedes, he left it there. It no longer moved. It was time to scrap it. He placed his hand on it once, on the cream leather seat. Then he turned away. He came to Korea. The wedding was small. Her father did not come. The father who had sent his daughter back to Korea during the LA riots. The man who had held a scalpel in Myeongdong. A firm man. Still, the two of them smiled. It was not glamorous, but it was enough. The two people who had once cooked ramyeon in Sawtelle now shared the same name. Life in Korea began. June's business grew quickly. Drawing on his doctorate and his years as an international financial consultant in LA, he stepped into Korea's era of economic growth. He started with a small consulting office. Combining the economic theory he had learned as an exchange student at UCLA with the practical knowledge he had built as an Asia market analyst, he began helping foreign investors enter the Korean market. At that time, Korea was recovering from the IMF crisis, and foreign capital was flooding in. June stood at that intersection, connecting American and European investors with Korean companies. His first client was a Korean-American investor he had known in LA, and word of that success spread, and the business grew. Angela's translation network helped too. Her German opened doors to connections with German firms that would have otherwise been harder to reach. And so, in the years when foreign capital was pouring into Korea, he stood between them, the way Angela had once stood between two ministers 10 years before. A home came, a car came. People around them asked, "When are you having children?" At first they laughed it off, but it didn't stop. At gatherings, at family dinners, even in elevators. "Your husband is doing so well. And still no children?" Angela never answered. June was away often. Business, travel. In that empty space, words filled in. "Your husband is so handsome. If you're always alone, he'll wonder." She pretended to smile. Her mother-in-law said, "Our family may only have the name left, but we are a Yangbang lineage, carried down through generations. You need to give us a son." Angela became pregnant. She was overwhelmed with joy. The kind of joy that makes you afraid someone will take it away. So she held it alone, without telling anyone. But it didn't last long. She walked out of the hospital alone. June was away on a business trip. She got in a taxi, looked out the window. Seoul was the same as always. People walked. Only Angela had stopped. The second pregnancy. This time she was even more careful. Too full of joy. Afraid again that someone would take it. She said nothing even to June. She carried it alone. Waited alone. But again, Angela's eyes changed. They became hollow. She sat in front of a meal, but didn't pick up her spoon. She lay down to sleep, but didn't close her eyes. Her body grew thin. The woman who had once bought 2 steaks in Sawtelle no longer sat at the table. The night June came home. It was late. The living room light was off. Angela was sitting by the window, without turning on a light, looking out at the Seoul night.
June stopped. 167 centimeters, the long back of someone who had studied ballet. That back looked so small. He thought of 10 years ago, the night LA burned. Angela had held out the key. Don't skip meals. Make something of yourself. Those words came back to him. He had promised when he proposed that she would never have to open a door alone again. And yet, this woman was sitting alone in the dark by a window. June understood. The business had grown. Money had come. People had gathered around him. And yet, the one person who mattered, he had not been there for her. The promise to make her live like a queen, it rang hollow. That night, June sat down beside Angela. He said nothing. He simply stayed. Angela didn't turn her head, but she reached out her hand. June took it. Those two losses left a permanent emptiness in Angela's chest. But June saw that emptiness and decided to put everything down. The next morning, June sat alone in his office. He looked at documents, at numbers, at people's names, and he saw something he had not seen before. Foreign capital, the Korean government, the transactions between them. A fracture. The kind of fracture no one person could carry alone. June stood up from his chair. He was a man from a Yangban household. Propriety and loyalty were in his bones. But in this moment, there was only one choice. 1 month. Quietly, but completely. He stepped away. People called him a traitor. Some turned their backs. June said nothing. That evening, he spoke to Angela. Where do you want to go? Angela thought for a long time. She looked out the window. She looked down at her hands. Somewhere we can start over from the beginning, June asked. Where? Germany. Angela said it. German is my language. At UCLA she had double majored, economics and German, not Korean, not English, a third language, a place where she could breathe in that language, not Korea, not America, a land where neither of them owed anything to anyone, a place to begin again. It was 2008, the year the Myeongdong government came to power. The air between foreign capital and the Korean government was shifting. It was not coincidence that June had read The Fracture first. And there was one more thing. The German minister. 2002, the World Cup bid meetings. Angela had interpreted at that table, between the German minister and the Korean minister. The very table where June had found Angela on a television screen. The German minister remembered her. Precise, unshaken, between two languages. The minister had reached out first. Would you consider coming to Germany? Angela had held those words for a long time, but the minister knew June as well, the man who had stood at the intersection when foreign capital was flowing into Korea. If the first thing that had connected the two of them was a television screen, now it was a German minister. June said it. Let's go. Short. That was enough. Germany. A small town, like the gardens of Giverny in France. Flowers spilled over stone walls, alleyways were narrow, the air was different. Angela opened a window. It had been a long time. She became someone who opened windows again. She greeted people in German, neighbors, market vendors, the alley cats. Laughter came back, slowly, very slowly. She ate, she slept, she walked, like the mornings in Sawtelle, when she brewed coffee. It was beginning to feel like enough again. And then it was spring. She was 39. Angela called for June.
She held something out without a word. A pregnancy test.
June sat for a long time. He said nothing. Then he stood up. He held Angela. That was all. They came to Korea. Medical checks, fetal tests, maternal examinations. The first appointment they made from Germany was in Seoul. On that trip, Angela stopped by Apgujeong, an old salon. The scent of Joe Malone arrived first, dark amber and ginger lily. That scent welcomed her. She sat down in the chair. She looked at herself in the mirror. Those were not the hollow eyes she remembered. That was not the thin body she had known. A woman of 39 who had passed through a German spring. That was the face looking back. She began to speak. When I gave him that car, he cried for a long time. And then she said it. I'm pregnant right now. In Germany. Twins. She smiled shyly in the mirror. That smile was there. A son who looks like his father. A daughter who looks like me. That's what she hoped for. She said it quietly. Very quietly. I did not ask. This seat does not ask. It only remembers. One Mercedes with cream leather seats, one deposit, one bank account, and one key. The woman who handed it over and walked away, the man who held it and stood through the long years. Perhaps love is only completed when you give away everything you have. Have you ever handed someone a key? And do you know what door it opened? Leave it in the comments. The next story, Seat 0 will remember, begins with a different scent. The back of a woman walking out the door. Something remained in that seat after she was gone. That is all this seat remembers today. This was Seat 0.